The appearance is the same to a degree. So let me show you one that I've done and that I'm going to show you how to do. So that is a log cabin block where you have, so it's done with strips of fabric, and usually, or rather, no, always, you work from the middle and work around by stitching each side, a piece to each side. Now with this one, I think the first piece I stitched was this bit here, and you do two, one after the other. So this was number one, the red square in the middle. This was number two. This was three. So I changed to light, having stitched two sides in the greens. I then did two light sides. So as I say, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So by doing two consecutive of either the light or the dark and alternating between the light and the dark, it gives you what is like a half square triangle. If you imagine that diagonal line, you've got half one side and half the other in triangular formation. Now, not with normal patchwork log cabin, you would actually stitch your strips, your single layer strip of fabric to each piece. Right. Now, there's a couple of ways. I do a quick way where you sew all your pieces onto a long strip and then cut it apart and press and then sew the next strip on. Or you can actually cut all these individual pieces to the correct size and stitch them as in the sequence that I have said to you. Now, Manx log cabin, so all these, where these strips come together, it would just be a seam. With Manx log cabin, we have a flap of fabric. Can you see? All of them have got it. They are stitched down, but there's a flap. And on this side too, there's a flap of fabric. So they've got a little bit of extra fabric along both bits, and we do it onto a foundation piece. So I've got a square of cotton fabric, and we don't need to draw any lines. We do the base by folding and pressing, and we work with the creases that show. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how we would do it. I was going to do, hello Jan, I was going to do the simple method tonight, but I'll show you how to prepare your base fabric. So there's my base and there's all my stitching. So with this, you don't actually need to have wadding on the back. I probably would, but this was done many, many years ago, and it was done by hand, and all the lengths of fabric were used. You didn't use a tape measure or anything like that. You used your hand, or the distance between, say, your thumb and your first finger, or your thumb and your little finger, and those was how you tore your strips from corn sacks, and that was how it was done. I'm going to do it easier. We're not cutting exact measurements. We're adding strips and then trimming the strip when we stitch to the correct position. So I'm going to pop this down. So I've got my iron ready. So there we are. So there is our one that I have already done, my Manx log cabin. And as I was showing you, can you see here, we've got the little flaps. The only one that is stitched down the whole way around is this red one here. So I will pop my iron on. So what we're working with is a 9-inch base square. like this. So I have got an accurately cut 9-inch square, and we are going to press this to find the position of where our center square. There is our center square. That is what is going to be my center square. And I want to position it exactly in the middle of this square. So let's just bring this over to the pressing mat. I've got my strips ready there. And to find our first position, we are going to take one corner and take it exactly to the other point, so diagonally, and then we are going to press along that crease. And obviously my cutting wasn't that accurate. Oh, there we are. So you should have a point at each end, and we have pressed that diagonally in half. So we have a crease. And then we're going to press a crease into the opposite diagonal. So we'll just take that over. Oh, that one was better. So when you press it over, if your 9-inch square is perfect, that will be a perfect point at that side. So let's just turn that off. So now I have, you see those diagonal creases. So at this point, we do our first little bit of stitching. So let me just bring this over here. So we'll go back to the machine. Now, from your point of view, you can't actually see the creases that well. Oh, they're not too bad. But when you are working with this yourself, you'll actually find it isn't that bad. But as for camera, you can see the creases there. So where we're going to put this square, each corner point will line up on one of the creases. So if you pop that down and you have those corners, can you see they are exactly on those creases? And then those are too. So this is a 2-inch square. And where has my... It's probably dropped down the back here. Yes, there it is. Okay. Oops, now it's gone on the floor. Oh, so we need probably three pins. So I like to put a pin in there just to hold it. So if you can see, I have that point is on the crease there. Well, it's nearly a point there. It's on the crease. That's on there. And that's on there. So the first thing we're going to do before we do some more pressing is to stitch about 1/8 of an inch from the edge all the way around this square. So let's see, we'll have that, that's fine. So we will just stitch just around here. So I'll take that out now because that is actually in my way, and pop that in. Just keep your finger down to make sure that that square is on the point, or that corner is on the crease. Okay. And we could have done one more there. And then around here, just get that little bit out of the way. So it's just anchoring. I'm not even 1/8 of an inch from there. I'm about 1/16 of an inch. But we're just anchoring. It feels as though I was stitching it on. I wonder if I've got, no. It feels as though I've got 2 pieces of fabric there. Okay. So we have cut, we have stitched, and you can probably see there, you can see these diagonal creases coming out. So from there, so we've got that first one on. So if you're making lots of these, it might be worth doing all the pressing of the diagonals and then stitching all your squares in the center before you then do the pressing that we need to do. So 2-inch square, and then I'm going to have strips which are 2 inches wide. So I've got a whole width of fabric for this one, which is my light side, and then I've got 3 different fabrics, the greens, for my darker side. So from there, what we need to do is we need to press this, because we need to know where we're going to put these strips here. And at the minute we don't. We've got no guidelines at all. So what we do, on each side, we fold up, we take this raw edge up to the edge of our square. And then we make sure it lines up at this side, lines up at that side, and then we press. Okay, so doesn't matter about those diagonal lines anymore. If they get pressed out, absolutely fine. So we folded the raw edge up to the edge of our square, and then we take the fold and fold it again. Now, make sure that it doesn't pleat in the middle, but we fold that up there, and then make sure these line up. So there we are. So we folded it up for a second time, and we can open that out, and you can probably see we've got 1, 2, 3 creases across there. Then we need to turn it round to the other side and do exactly the same. So we're looking at each of these sides lining up. That's underneath our square, and press, and then fold up the folded edge to the raw edge that we have just pressed, and along here make sure that lines up, and then we have creases along there too. We can turn it the other way, and we'll do the 2 opposite sides there again. Make sure these side edges line up, and along the bottom of that center square, and fold that up again so that it's absolutely on top of the fold below. And then we can do this side here, line up these side edges and press across here, and nearly opened that up then. And then the folded edge comes right on top. So again, make sure it's still lined up down here and across here. And that's what we need to do. So we can now open those out, and can you see that I have crease lines on each side there, which is where we're going to add our fabrics. So I just thought I want one more. So that lovely when I did it the first time, when I did it the second time, and then I thought I'm a little bit fed up with doing this. I'm a bit fed up with having to press. So, you know, it's not really a big deal, but pressing it, you know, it takes a little bit of time. And sorry, I've just moved over because I'm going to do another one. So I just needed another little square. Okay. So what we would do from there, I'm just going to take this, we'll take this back to the machine. Whoops. There we go. Just cut myself another little square. And I think I'll have enough fabric. So how we would start is now, so you can see all those creases, we're going to work, I'm going to work anti-clockwise. If you're left-handed, you may like to work, I'm going to work clockwise. So I'm going to add to this side, then there, then there, then, and keep carrying on around. So what I would do, I've got my long strip of fabric here. We can trim away that selvage. Okay. And we are going to place, let's see, get it in there better. We are going to place this right sides together. So I'm going to, that's the wrong side. So right sides together, and I'm just going to line it up along this edge. So along here, and I am going to stitch just holding that up a little bit. So you don't need to cut your fabric off. So I'm just lining it up. So we're actually lining that up with that crease line there. And I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam, and I'm just going to stitch down to where the end of the, let's just see, that's lining it up. So you'll actually, not that you can see very well from this, but where there's still the diagonal crease there, we're going to be stitching down to that point there, because that is just the end of the red square. So if we pull that across there, you'll see there, that's where it is. And I'm just going to now trim along, or trim that bit off, so that it's level with that line there. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit too big, better too big than too small, and we don't actually have to trim anything off. It's very, very forgiving. So having stitched that one first of all, what we do then is fold it back so that this raw edge meets that first crease, that line just there. So you line that up perfectly. So that is on the crease. You can finger press that there. And then what I would do is put a pin into the fabric in that corner there, because the next thing we're going to do is add to this side. So it's not in the way. So we're making sure the fabric, the raw edge lines up here. Oh, there's Jack. Hello. Janet's never managed. Oh, you will manage it now. So there's our first piece. I finger pressed the fold, and you can see there's a little bit excess hanging over, which is great. That's just how it's supposed to be. And then we're going to work with the second side. So again, right sides together. We line it up to that crease that where we've just finished. Pull it to line up with the next side. Pop it under the machine. You don't need any pins to hold this down, but you just stitch. And we're stitching to the end of the red, our centre fabric, just there. There we go. So again, cut the thread. And then, again, you can just about see the red fabric through there. We're just going to cut along here, like that. We can trim that thread off if you want to, and then we're going to pull the raw edge back and line it up with this fold, this crease line here. So it's easier. Let's just see. There we go. So that lines up. We can press along that fold. And again, I'm going to take a pin and pop the pin in that previous corner so it holds it down. Now, then I'll go on to the next one. So I'm changing. I've done 1, 2 of the light. I'll change on to my greens now and do that side exactly the same, and then this side too, and just carry on round till it's finished. So rather than doing all of that, what I'm going to do is show you an easier method. Well, it'll be exactly the same method, a technique, but you won't have all these creases to have to iron in if you have some quilter's grid. Now, as you know, this was 9 inches square. With your quilter's grid, I've cut it to 8 inches square. And I have done one. Let's see if you can see here. I did one earlier. So can you see the quilter's grid on there? So I've done that directly onto quilter's grid. It's very light. Obviously with quilter's grid, you have a fusible side. So you just have to be careful if you go to press this at a later point, but it works. I have stitched onto the side which wasn't had the adhesive on, but as I say, if you iron, this is bobbly, and there are the dry adhesive here. So what I then thought from doing that, what about if I cut my square a little bit smaller? So I've cut it 8 inches, because as you see with my original one, which I was starting just there, we do have excess fabric, which we will trim off. And once we've got all the way around, I've actually stitched the whole way around the edge to hold the outer edges down. With the this one here, because I'd already trimmed it to 8 inches, there's no excess fabric. I've gone a little bit shallow there. There's no excess fabric, so I've just gone all the way around the edge. And to be honest, it was a lot easier than when there was excess fabric. So 8 inches, and let's just have a look. Oh, where is my, oh no, there, it's upside down. So we want this square to be in the center. I don't need to do any diagonal pressing because I can just lay this 2-inch square onto the center 2 inches. Can you see all of these lines here? I have got 1, 2, 3 inch squares and 1, 2, 3 inch squares here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I have got my 2-inch square right in the center. Okay, it covers the measurement of the starting square. Oh, the starting square on my original one was 9 inches. This one is 8 inches. The square in the center is 2 inches square and the strips are 2 inches wide. That's absolutely right. Everybody is listening. Yes, that's why I thought the quilter's grid is going to give you an accurate guideline. You're going to be able to see it when I'm filming now, just as easily as I can. It's the creases that you may not be able to see as well, but you can see where that grid is. So we'll start exactly the same as we did with the original method, and I'm going to stitch all the way around this center square. One more. And the only difference being, or what I didn't say, I have actually fused it, obviously not very well. I thought I had fused it, but I used steam and I shouldn't have done, to a piece of cotton fabric, just to make it a little bit more stable. But I am following the outside edge of the square, and I am going to follow these printed lines. How easy is that? I don't know why my machine's making a bit of a noise. Okay, so let's trim that away. Trim that away. So I've got my square in the middle. So as we did before, exactly the same. I'm going to take my light fabric. I'm going to put it right sides together. And this time I can actually see that's where my square ends. And I've got that line there. So I know where I've got to stop stitching and I know where I'm going to start. So again, 1/4 inch. I am using stitch length 2. Right. So I've popped my fabric right sides together. And again, I'm going to trim. Also, because I've got these lines, I can see exactly where I need to cut this fabric off. So in line with that line there. So again, we've stitched that. I'm going to open it out and I'm going to line my raw edge with this line here. So easy enough. That fits in there. The raw edge is along that line. You can see the lines extended. I'm going to finger press just there and I'm going to pop a pin at the left hand side. So having finger pressed that holds down very nicely. So I'm going to take my same light fabric again and I'm going to line that up down there. Again, I can see exactly where I'm stopping, where that line is. So we will start stitching and carry on stitching all the way to that line. I think that's perfect. Doesn't matter if it goes sort of a little bit over. Right. So again, I'm going to trim this off in line with that line extending there. And I'm going to fold this open and line this raw edge with that next line just there. It's quite easy to do it sideways and then finger press along the fold. And let's take another pin and we'll just pop that in there. So I've done 1, 2. Now I need to change to my light fabrics. So I think I only need one of these. Obviously the fabric in the middle is going to need shorter. So I've got my light and I'm going to pop that right sides together. Again, lined up there. Again, I can see where I need to stitch to. So needle down and stitch all the way to that printed line. Take that away. Trim along this line and take that out. Open it out. Line that up with that printed line there. Give that a finger press. I think, where have I put that? There we are. Let's just take, so when I say 3 pins, I'm going to put a 3rd pin just here. And then I'm going to work down this edge. 1, 2, 3. Here is number 4. So I'm taking my light fabric again, and we can line that up and line that up with that line. See that little excess bit of fabric? Doesn't matter. You can trim it off if you want to, but it's all going to be hidden. So we're just going to stitch down here. Just make sure your pin's not in the way. And we're going to that line, that printed line there. And again, we're going to lift the fabric and cut the excess off. So again, open it out, line that up with the printed line, the next printed line that is there, finger press along there. And then I'm taking this one out because I want to pop the pin in here at the start of our last line. So now that I've done 2 of my greens, I'm turning it around and I'm going to again use my light fabrics here. So we will line that up at the top, line that up along that line, and let's start printing again all the way down to that line and cut. So just twizzle it around. I'm going to trim along here. There we go. So that is trimmed now, and again open it out, line that up with the printed line opposite and finger press that. Okay, finger press. Then I can take this pin out here and pop it in there. So now I've got one more of my light to do. So again, with my same fabric, right sides together. I don't bother to pin the first bit because that's where we're going to stitch from. So, but I am lining my fabric up down here. I can see exactly where I'm stitching to. And all the way down to that printed line. I'm sure you get the drift of this now, and isn't it really very easy? Whoops, as long as we cut the thread. Okay, so fold this back up to that printed line and finger press along there. Then I'll take this pin here. Yep, a roller would be a good idea to press, but I don't want it flattened. I want it to be slightly raised. So I'm happy with, but if you want it to be flatter, absolutely do. I like it to be a little bit rounded. So having done, we're now onto the greens. So I've got my second green colour now, and I'm going to place that right sides together. So let's pop that at the top and start stitching down there. And again, I'm looking at where I'm going to stitch to. Whereas with your crease, as I say, it is a little bit harder to see where you are stopping. Okay, so again, let us trim down there. So again, open it out, line it up with that printed line, give it a finger press there. I've got my pin down here, so I'm going to take that pin out and pop it in there. And then I've got that same green again. Oh, that's just big enough. So again, right sides together. And pop that down to line it up. Right, bear with, I'm just going to... Martin's talking a bit loud. Right. There we go. Okay, so let's start stitching down here. And all the way down to this bottom line. And what you'll probably notice is, so there's only a little bit that needs snipping off here. The next line around will be the outer edge. So let's align that, give that a little finger press, take the pin from here, move it to there, and I've shifted that round. Now we're back to our light fabric. So I'm going to again put that right sides together from the top there, all the way down. And whoops, let's just put the needle up there. So I want this to go, just make sure that that is right to the top. That's better. Sort of a small indiscrepancy, or, you know, if it's not exactly lined up, because you've got these lines printed, it is going to be absolutely fine. Okay, so again, just move it round to the side, cut along there, open out. Now this one is going right to the edge. If you're using the creased, when I've pressed those other ones with the creases in, it will go to the last crease line. But with this one, instead, it will go to the outer edge. So that's the only difference, but it makes no difference at all, because it will be the edge of your block, and your block's going to be exactly the right width anyway. So I'm on to my last one of my lights. So again, right sides together, line that up right at that edge, along that line, and down to the bottom here. So, whoops, we are stitching, it just caught my thread. That's okay. So down to that printed line, and trim that off. So that's the last of my light side. So again, fold that out. So we're lining that up right with the very edge, and I'm going to take that pin and pop that in there, line it up at this end too, so that we can finger press or nail press the whole way across there. And then I'm coming in with my outer, my darker fabric because of the greens. So again, so there's my dark one. Pop that right sides together. Just make sure that just lines up with that very outer edge. There we go. And pop that under the machine and line it up with that last printed line all the way down to that line just there, which you can see that printed line across there. And again, trim your fabric away. fold it to that outside edge, line it up, and we can give that a press before or after I've pinned, but I'm going to take the pin out from there and pop that in. And then the last one, we need to cover this edge here. So again, right sides together with my dark fabric. I'm on the 2 darks and carry on stitching. So I'm just holding it all the way down to the bottom so that the raw edge lines up with that printed line, and trim. And then we can just trim this last bit off level with the edge of our square, and then we can fold this back, line it up with the very edge of the fabric, give that a press, and I'll take that pin out of there and pop it there, and then I'll just find another pin and just, that's it, make sure that's lined up, and we can put a pin just here. Now what I would do now, and I will just whiz around the edge, so I'm just going to increase the stitch length so that we're doing a basting stitch, just, or a tacking stitch all the way around the edge, about an 1/8 of an inch from the edge there. So you can make sure that that is still all lined up. And I just want to make sure, oh, that's gone in there anyway. Just make sure that's nice and flat. And around here we can take out the pin as we go. So just hold the fabric, because we've only finger pressed it there. So we can just make sure that's nice and flat where the fold is. And whoops, one more. Oh, that's come off, okay. Right, let's just take that pin out, hold that nice and flat. All the way to the edge, and take that pin out too. Whoops, what have I done there? That's it. All the way along, flatten that down. And we're on the very last side. Oh, I've done that. I was thinking that I hadn't. Right. Oh, that's what it was. One of my pins. No, where's that gone? Oh, what on earth was that? A little pin or a little bead. Okay. So take that pin out and trim that off. And there we have it, all done. And that is, so I have got cotton fabric on the back there, but I had got all of my printed lines, as opposed to, like this, those crease lines. So as I say, that for me is just another way of making that a little bit quicker, but the effect is exactly the same. So there's one, there's two. The only difference being I've got this excess white fabric, which we will trim back. But if I put this on top here, whoops, wrong way around. There we are. They are saying that they are minimally bigger. So you wouldn't want to do some and some. So the effect is exactly the same. The thing is, with this one, which I use the quilter's grid, you've got your lines an inch apart, whereas with your 9-inch original size, when we fold this, the actual distance between the creases is less than an inch. So quilter's grid, oh, you can't see it there, quilter's grid, you're an inch apart. With these ones, the creases are probably 7/8 of an inch, 3/4 to 7/8. So it just makes it slightly smaller. So the 9-inch one comes down to 7, and the 8-inch one stays exactly 8 inches across there anyway, because we worked on the quilter's grid from an 8-inch size. So what do you think about that? There is some quilters grid on the website. I thought lots of you will probably have some because you've bought it in the past when we fuse the little squares onto it and do our patchwork like that. But lots of you won't have used it. Is it possible to add yes, of course. So if you would like fusible quilters grid, and you haven't paid yet, just send me, or even if you have, send me an email through and I can add that to your order. So there won't be any further postage. Oh, so Caroline loves it. Sue loves it. And you're right, Gita. As I say, I didn't mind. It is quite therapeutic pressing the fabric to crease it, but who's that saying? They're going to give it a go. Yes, you're definitely going to give it a go, Nettie. Lovely. You can get a bit fed up with it. I mean, I was hooked. When I did one, I couldn't wait to get back to the machine to do another one. So you can see I have got 1, 2, where is my 3? Oh, here we are. I'd got 3 of them ready made. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I'd already done, no, that was my quilters grid effort. And then I'd done this one. That was my very first one when I had to have a play. That was playing on the quilters grid to make sure it worked. But with this one, I don't usually stitch in the evening at all, but Martin was watching something that I wasn't particularly interested in, and I thought, I'm going to make another block. So it probably takes 15 minutes to do one, if that. If you've got all your pieces cut, all your strips 2 inches wide, cut, it doesn't really take that long at all. But as I say, addictive, I felt. Oh, thank you, Alison. Yeah, Jan, absolutely right. As I say, I always liked another pattern to try, I know. So just to go a step further then, all I would do from here, this really isn't that bulky, and I would just stitch this together as if it were a patchwork block. And you know how, let me get these two, you know how these make a different pattern, don't they? So you could put those 2 together like that. You could, let me see if I can just pin those together so that you can see, where are we? Unfortunately, I haven't got 4 to be able to show you. No, if I just pin it together, because there are so many variations of the pattern when you put these together in a different way. So when you put 2 together like that, let's put our 3rd one. Whoops. You'll just have to imagine this a little bit with the 4th one, because there isn't a 4th one to show you. Sorry, I'm just pinning down here so that you can see. So you can see how that's going to pan out. Let's just see if I could hold that one in there. So right, so you could have it like that, okay. Or, so remember what that looks like. Or, so we've got the greens in the centre. Where is that one gone? Here, let's just take these pins out a minute. Or we could have, here we go. What was I trying to do? Yes, I want to have the creams in the centre. Oh yes, so no, the other thing you could do is have them going in a diagonal. Not quite as straightforward as I thought. So let's just put that in there. Whoops, there we go. No, not like that. Like that. If I got more space, I would be able to just do this as we go. So there are 2 like that. And I'm going to put this time the cream to the center to give you a completely different look. Okay, so let's just pop that just there. So can you see now, with the cream, I've just altered them around, and you have got, have I got that right? Yeah. So we've got the cream in the center to give that, to give that solid cream center rather than green. The other thing we can do is actually make them look as though they're going in a diagonal. So plough furrows to make it look a little bit different. And there are just so many. Let's see, like that. Whoops. That's it. So this way we put the darker colour side by side or the lighter colour side by side, and it just gives a diagonal, like a leading line, for it to be different yet again. Ow. So I've just got two there, but you can see how they're going in a diagonal. So it's a little bit like your half square triangles, where the half square triangle can be placed in one direction or another, and you can make it form diamonds. Similarly, you can do this with log cabins, but they're just on a bigger scale. So, oh, thank you, Janice, and thank you, Donna. Does it matter which side you start off the centre square? No, as long as you go around in either a clockwise direction or an anti-clockwise, you must keep going the same way. Just keep going. And if you do it sort of regimentally, you'll just automatically turn your work and work down, say, the right-hand side, turn your work and go work down the right-hand side. What you don't want to do is then start going the opposite way, because it won't work. You might get something, similar, but the overlaying won't be exactly as it should. So definitely continually in one direction, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. And if you do the same all the time, you'll be absolutely fine. So, yeah, log cabin, Sue's favourite block. I rather like it too. No, Carolyn, I haven't seen anybody use Quilters Grid for Manx. I absolutely haven't. It just sprung to my mind. I wonder if it would work. I then thought perhaps I would have to use a different width of strip, but you don't. You've still got this, as you can see, you've still got the folds. I just think it's really nice. It's like flanges. You know, when we do a flange around the outside of a quilt, a small quilt or a large quilt, it just gives it more texture. It looks, I love it. I love it. And I can see myself doing a few more and making something from it rather than having a few samples sitting there. I mean, even a cushion front would be really, really nice. Thank you, Nettie, and thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Marion. In fact, thank you, everybody. So I can hear that dinner is moving in the kitchen. Thank you, Marilyn and Patricia and Jack. Yes, I'm just glad. Oh, Janet likes the colour choice. It's always and forever. And I am in absolute love with, I've got a few things. Can you see the pouch behind me? I've used that as well. There's quite a few things that are coming using always and forever. Anyhow, I will thank you so much for joining me tonight. And I'll say, I hope you've enjoyed. I think from the comments you have. I imagine that some of you will be giving this a go this weekend. And as I say, I shall probably make a few more because I just love it. And log cabin is one of my favourite blocks as well. So, for those of you, I think there's just a few that haven't sent their email for the or a fill thread sale last night, and rulers. There's a few odd bits left. If anybody would still like, send me an email to see if I've got some, and add to your order if you would like to. But all I can say from there is take care of yourselves, enjoy your evening and the weekend, and I shall be back next week, next Tuesday, in the Sew with Trisha group. Orders will go out Monday, all those threads, etc. But then on Tuesday, what are we doing on Tuesday? Oh, we're doing the first in the sewing technique of postcards. So I need to get that sorted for the very first one. So take care of yourselves, and I'll see you then. Bye for now.